Hey guys, Harley from RCC. Gonna do something new here for me and do a video build series. This is a this series I'm gonna do all just shot, edited, produced, whatever on my iPhone. Not gonna see a ton of production value or anything like that. Just gonna be a brief overview of different steps. Might do one a week. We'll see how that goes. Nothing's set in stone. Something else new for this build is it's actually not for me. I'm doing it for Jim at Vanquish Products. So, going to just take some load off his hands and give him a cool truck when it's all done. This is going to be a sister car to my personal Wraith build. You might have seen it on RCC or might go check it out. It's based on the Jimmy's 4x4 chassis. The Jimmy's 4x4 chassis is a popular. Jimmy's 4x4 is a popular one-to-one company. Big name chassis builder. They have won races like King of the Hammers, things like that. So I like the style of their chassis. Decided that's what I wanted to build. Jim saw it, liked it, so we contacted Jerry over at the DMG and had him build one up for him as well. It's very similar to my chassis. You really wouldn't be able to tell too many of the differences if you sat them side by side unless you really knew what to look for. So we'll touch on this later. We decided to build this kit, or this car, not from a kit. Decided to get all the components separately and build it from there. So we it's not going to be exactly like I started with personally on my rig, or like a lot of you will, where you bought the ready to run or the kit and you're going to upgrade parts and things like that here and there. So being that it's Vanquish, they send me the whole host of their upgrades and parts they make for the Wraith and things like that, and we'll touch on all the parts individually now. We'll start again just with the chassis. We touched on it a second ago. Again, it's built by the DMG on RCC. The DMG is his screen name. So it's he built this. It's all solid steel rod. It's a little bit heavier than tube, but it is it's very stout. It's a lot more resistant to bending, of course, then. So, and it's easier to fabricate. This chassis uses a Wraith skid plate for all of its lower suspension points. Shock mounts, panhard bar mount, upper panhard bar mount, and front chassis mounted servo mounts, all built into the chassis. It's also built to accept a stock Wraith interior and dash, so makes it easy on me. I don't have to fabricate a in-depth interior or anything like that out of styrene like the old days. So, not that I was ever very good at that part. So that's the chassis. If you wanted something like that, you can contact Jerry. Something like this usually does run about $375, but you will need to contact him and, of course, get a quote for yourself. Everything varies depending on what you want. You can get your own custom order chassis, things like that. If you want one just like it, let him know, and who knows what he'll do now that he's built two. So anyway, moving on to the Vanquish stuff. They've sent me all their stuff. Black aluminum axle housings. Jim wants to go all black with his parts on this build, so a lot of things might look stock, but of course they won't be. Axle housings. This is the lower panhard mount. Slips over the other end of the axle. So you've all seen that. I'm not using the chassis mounted servo part or the panhard mount that you would normally see, since I'm not using the factory cage. There are two different styles of diff covers. The axle trusses that they sell. Knuckles and hubs. This rig will be two-wheel. This will only have front steering. It won't be four-wheel steer like my build, so a little bit different there. So like I said, since it's only front steer, rear steer lockout, or straight axle adapters. Whole pile of different hubs. This will let me adjust the track width for exactly where I want it once I finally get the wheels in. Waiting on Jim to decide or to make his own wheels for this truck. So hopefully we'll see something on that soon from him. Titanium links, uppers and lowers, super beefy. Titanium, heavy duty threads. Traxxas Revo rod ends, a lot beefier than the Axial 3mm stuff. If you you want to beef up your stuff, these are a great buy. Tie rod and drag link for the front end. Replaces, on your kit it would replace that flimsy stock one. Also a really good buy if you're looking to beef up your Wraith. Filling the axles, we've got axial universals. They've been plenty beefy for me. I'm glad to throw them in there. Much better than the dog bones or the RC 4-wheel drive XVDs. I suggest the universals over any other option currently available. Fast Eddie chipped in, threw us a few sets of his Wraith bearing kits. So we appreciate it, Eddie. We'll gladly use your... To go on the wheels once they do arrive, axial R35 rip saws. You've seen them. That's what comes in the kit. Love the tires. Throw those on there. For now, this is a takeout transmission I had from another Wraith I had that I never ran it, so it's still brand new. Still got the axial motor on there. Of course, this isn't going to be used. Most of this transmission really isn't even going to be used. I'll likely throw a Robinson Racing 36 tooth steel spur gear on this with the Traxxas slipper clutch, and then I'll probably get a supershafty.com beefy top shaft to make bolting all that up easy. And then, of course, all the guts of this thing are going to get replaced with steel gears and things like that to make this as bulletproof as possible. These drive shafts will go away as well. We'll use the MIP CV shafts. Those aren't here yet though, so we'll get that later. Axial parts, stock Wraith skid plate. So throw that in there, make that easy. Stock Wraith interior, spare parts bag. Dash and interior in there with the stickers. Throw that in the cage. All easy there. Moving on to electronics. For this build, I told Jim what we wanted to use. We got that here. This is the Futaba S9157. This is actually being modified to run as a winch. I'll use the Hayok winch controller. So that'll be a beefy, stout winch. Should pull this thing up a hill without an issue. If you want to see how to convert a servo into a winch, I'd recommend searching on RCC. Steering servo, Futaba BLS 152. This is a brushless servo, around 420 ounce-inches of power at 6 volts. Strong. It'll point the tires where they need to go. This little shorty, you can see it's the same size as a normal servo this way, but it is a stubby depth. I've used this on the dig transmission before, so depending on what we use in this truck, this might get thrown in there. This is the Futaba R2106GF receiver. This is typically an air receiver. However, with the FHSS system Futaba runs in the 4PL, this binds right up, gives you a nice small footprint with all the plugs in the end. Makes it really nice for packaging stuff. Real short, stubby antenna. This is a great receiver for scalers and comp rigs. And like I said, FHSS Futaba. Going to be using the Futaba 4PL. This one's mine. I'll be sending this car to Jim bind and drive, so he won't be getting my radio, but he's got one of his own sitting there and ready to go. Last but not least, for this video, the power to move this thing. Castle Mamba Max Pro censored brushless ESC. It's a beast of an ESC. Versatile, works great. It's just the thing we need to drive this Tekin Pro 4 short course motor. This is the 3300 kV motor, so not the 4000's faster, but I didn't think that was necessary. I think the 3300 will be plenty fast with more torque than we'll need. But Jim wants something to test future parts on as well as have fun himself, so this would be a great motor for him. So that's it. that's the build intro for now. That's the parts we have laying around. You'll see some more of the detailed parts and some of the process later, but just wanted to give you a quick overview of what we had and what we're going to use. Thanks Holmes Hobbies for the electronics, Futaba servos and electronics here, Jerry at the DMG, Axial Racing for the parts they've got, of course Vanquish, it's for you. So we'll probably see more guys on board later once we start getting some of the other parts in. Don't want to forget Fast Eddie, thanks again. If you got any questions, you can find me on RCC, facebook.com/Harley Designs, or Twitter @Harley0706. Thanks guys, we'll see you later.